reading now?
Sure.
I am missing a page. Right. All right, good evening and welcome to our monthly town council meeting. I'd like to officially call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. Madam Clerk, could you please do a roll call?
Mayor James,
Here.
Councilman Winkler,
Present.
Councilman Trollinger,
Present.
Councilwoman Bryant Ward is absent. Councilman Jenkins,
Present.
Madam Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. And if you would all rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Council, if you could look at the agenda, I would like to make one minor adjustment, if it is the will of the council, where it is 3.36 planning for a report. That was incorporated into inspections, so I would like to remove that from the agenda. So I make a motion to accept the agenda with as presented, with the exception of removing 3.36 of planning. Do I have a second? Anybody?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All
Yeah,
in favor?
I have a question, discussion. So when, I know we have an interim director, but will there be any opportunity for her to give some kind of a summary or some kind of presentation, some status of what she's done to date at some point in time?
Of course.
Again, and I understand, you know, she's been diligent. She's here some days and remotely, but I think it would help, at least me anyway, me get an idea of what's going on with respect to the planning process in the planning department.
That's a fair request. I will make sure that that happens. All right, so we have a motion and properly seconded. All in favor of the
Question,
acceptance?
Madam Mayor. Was that the update, or is that related, or is that correspond at all to us having DR, because wasn't DR Horton supposed to come in for planning as part of our discussion?
They have been asked to come in and they have not, so their date that they were supposed to come in did not work for them.
Okay,
So we're
it's not,
working.
it's not, okay.
No. All right, so we have a motion properly seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to our, and I'm flying blind right now because my computer went down. Hold on a sec. All right, next on the agenda is, all right, there we go. The approval of the minutes from March 18th, and thank you so much. I was missing that page. The minutes, we have minutes of a special meeting on March 18th, the closing statement for March 18th, minutes of the special meeting and closing statement. Do I have someone from the dais that is willing to make a motion?
Do you want to do these together or separately?
You can do them all together.
I'll make a motion, we accept the approval of minutes and closing statements for March 18th, the closing statement of the closed session on March 18th, the minutes of the special meeting on March 18th, and the closing statement of the closed session on March 18th as presented.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to our public comment. If anybody would like to speak this evening, we ask that you state your name, whether you live within the incorporated town limits, and if you could limit your comments to 3 minutes, that would be greatly appreciated. I don't have anyone signed up. All right, moving on to the next one. We have some recognitions coming up. Proclamations for Arbor Day, founding of La Plata, and National Volunteer Week. And our esteemed council is going to read them. The first one is Arbor Day.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. Whereas in 1872, the Nebraska Board of Agriculture established a special day to be set aside for the planting of trees. This holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed around the world, in Maryland on the first Wednesday of April and nationwide on the last Friday in April. And whereas trees can be a solution to combating climate change by reducing the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, reducing heating and cooling costs, excuse me, moderating the temperature, cleaning the air, producing life-giving oxygen, and providing habitat for wildlife while increasing property values, enhancing the economic vitality of business areas, and beautifying our community. And whereas the town of La Plata has been recognized by the Arbor Day Foundation as a Tree City USA for the 5th year, and whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal, now, therefore, we, the council of the town of La Plata, do hereby proclaim April 2nd, 2025 as Arbor Day in the town of La Plata and urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day, to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands, and to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Council of the town of La Plata, Janine James Mayor, David Winkler Councilman, Matthew Trollinger Councilman, Evelyn Bryant Ward Councilwoman, David Jenkins Councilman.
Thank you so much. The next one is the founding of La Plata.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whereas the official history of the village of La Plata began with its incorporation on April 4th, 1888, as recorded in the Maryland Book, and whereas the founding and growth of La Plata is attributed in large part to the construction of the Baltimore and Potomac Railroad, developed by the Pennsylvania Railroad, and whereas the volunteers who serve on the Historic Preservation Commission of the town of La Plata dedicate their efforts to protecting and preserving historic sites significant to the history of La Plata and educating residents and visitors to La Plata about La Plata's historic events. And whereas, despite its growth in modern times, town of La Plata retains its quaint small town spirit through its unique establishments, traditional events, and the collaboration of residents, businesses, nonprofits, and the town government to create a sustainable environment in which we can all thrive. Now, therefore, we, the council of the town of La Plata, do recognize April 4th, 2025 as the 137th anniversary of the founding of the town of La Plata, and do commend all of our citizens and visitors to explore the charm and history of our town. Signed by the council of the town of La Plata.
Thank you very much. And lastly, next month, we have National Volunteer Week.
Thank you. National Volunteer Week, April 20th through April 26th, 2025. Whereas each community member can affect positive change with any volunteer action, no matter how big or small, and whereas 1.7 million Marylanders volunteer each year, providing 181.9 million hours of service and an estimated economic value of more than $4.3 billion. That's billion with a B. Whereas thousands of volunteers working in our community utilize their time and talent daily to make a real difference in the lives of children, adults, and the elderly. Whereas volunteers can connect with local community service opportunities through hundreds of local nonprofit organizations. And whereas experience teaches us that government by itself cannot solve all our nation's social problems, and giving of oneself in service to another empowers the giver and the recipient. And whereas our volunteer force is a great treasure, and during this week, we recognize their commitment to serving the greater good. And now, therefore, we, the Council of the Town of La Plata, proclaim April 20th through April 26, 2025 as National Volunteer Week in the Town of La Plata in appreciation of the work, commitment, and dedication of our volunteers, and urge all citizens, regardless of age, to become involved and volunteer in the community. And it's signed by the Town Council of La Plata, Janine E. James Mayor, David Winkler Councilman, Matthew Trollinger Councilman, Evelyn Bryant Ward Councilwoman, and myself, David Jenkins Councilman. And I would add, I was had the privilege to participate in a meeting this morning of Keep La Plata Beautiful, and the volunteers do great stuff for La Plata. So I just want to highlight that. Well, thank you.
Thank you. And we have 3 great volunteers sitting in the front as well for our finance committee. So thank you very much. Appreciate that. Next are our department monthly highlights. And Ms. Larson, you are up.
Good evening, council. Any questions regarding this February's monthly report?
All right. Any questions? Go ahead.
Again, thank you for the report. And I noticed it's a different and improved presentation, which I find very helpful. And I think, listen to the finance committee, they may have helped you, which
Yes.
that's appreciated. So it was a
Yes,
very
they
good
did.
presentation. I just had clarify this. When you use the term finance year to date or year to date, has that changed? Because this was as of the end of February. So
This is year to date as the end of February.
so that's
So this report is as of February 28th, and anything in here is year to date as of February.
right. But I mean, I thought we were always kind of a month behind or even further. So
No.
this is the difference, right?
Well, the difference, so last report I gave for January, and that's because we have the AP automation, and I'm able to run a report
Okay.
and pull what's outstanding based on the invoices we have. I mean, that is limited. If we
Right.
don't have the invoice, then I can't pull that data, but at least that gives me an idea of what's
Correct.
been still outstanding.
Yeah, and thanks for the clarification, because I think that's a good thing. Thank you. So are we going to get any comments from the finance committee with respect to the enterprise budgets tonight?
Actually, the enterprise fund budget, they did not have any recommendations. They are
Okay.
here regarding their recommendations based on the budget that was put together per the town manager's request.
And then I'm not sure this is the question, but I may direct it toward the HR director, but can there or should be any kind of a training to the department heads about how to do budgets, and just a basic 101 kind of how to do budgets and
Well,
in the future?
we had training on preparing a budget in
Mhm.
February, and
Okay.
all departments heads were invited along with any staff that they wanted. Public Works attended. There was at least somebody from Public Works for all session, and the police attended some of those sessions.
Good. And I hope that continues for next year. Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Larson?
Yes, because I was trying to go back and look, refresh my memory on inspections and enforcement being under budget or having spent everything. What was
so-
that?
So they're basically over budget because of the amount of inspections that they are doing, which we
That's right.
recoup the fees for.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Director Kennedy.
Thank you.
All right. Any questions for Director Kennedy? Go ahead.
I would just again urge, if you can, for next year, continue the budget training for the department heads. I mean, I think that's a positive thing. And then, are there any updates to the pension process?
No, not at this time.
So that, I forget the last one we looked at is
And Brett.
no, the other, the one pager we got. So there's no other follow-up from them or no other information that they have
So
provided?
my understanding was that the council was potentially going to send additional questions. And I had not received any.
I think the attorney that was on the call was going to send additional information to Ms. Minor. He had different information, what we were given on the one pager, if you recall. You haven't gotten any?
Yeah, I have not either. I can
But
reach
yeah.
back out.
We conflicting data from what he had allocated as the numbers. We were significantly higher on the sheet that we were given. And then the other gentleman was, I guess, muted or on standby.
They responded back and said he could not get his microphone to work.
Okay, but we haven't had any follow-up from the gentleman that was not muted.
Not,
Okay,
All right. Any,
The gentleman that muted, did he call? I mean, did he?
when I reached back out to them, they said they had technical difficulties and if the council wished, they could come back. Try again.
Okay, because I okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Director of Inspections, come on down. Any questions? Go ahead, David.
Again, thank you for the report. Appreciate it. I know the effort goes into these. I know we had met in February about perhaps a change to our orders with respect to disorderly housing. Has there been any other information or follow-up on
I
that?
have been
Are you
compiling
aware
some
of?
information from other municipalities. I should have something very soon for submittal.
Thank you. And then has there been any complaints about that particular location that I referred to earlier? That
I have not
location?
received any.
Okay. And then has there been any other issues with respect to Pine Grove and what's going on out there with the construction?
Have
Or
not received.
that you're aware of?
Sure. Have not received any additional complaints or concerns. Councilman Trollinger did ask a question at the last meeting I attended, and I wanted to get an answer for that, was how often does the MDE inspector visit Pine Grove? The answer is twice a month.
Mhm.
So,
And then just quickly, and this probably not your lane, but I'm hopeful that the representatives can schedule some time to meet with the council. If not this council, then the next council. Because I think
Absolutely.
it's important for a lot of reasons, but primarily because of these issues with the violations or alleged violations, but also that the amenity package that I forwarded to the council a week ago. And I think that's important that the public and the council knows that information. So hopefully they will respond in a positive way. Thanks. That's all I have.
Anyone else?
Yes. Thank you for the follow-up information. And I just want to make clear to you, because I know you've got a lot of things that you juggle. You're responsible for many things throughout the town, and so is your department. That if there is anything you need and your department needs, as far as inspections, manpower, whatever, that we get that in light of this budget session, because I think it's sometimes easy to outsource some of these things, but they are not accountable like your department is and you are and like we are to our residents. And there's a big difference when we bump into our community members, these folks that are maybe outsourced third-party vendors. They're checking boxes sometimes, and yeah, we might have subrogation interests against them or recourse in that way, but there's no moral imperative, if you know what I mean. And so if there's ever a moment, especially in light of this budget season, that you say, you know what, we are stretched too thin for what the council is asking for us to do, let us know. And if there's anything now, let us know, because we're in the thick of it, right?
absolutely.
Is there anything off the top of your head that is helpful for you or your department in light of the high amount of development in our area and some, for example, with Pine Grove or other places where there are some things that pop up from now and then?
Absolutely. It keeps us very, very busy for only two of us. I have, and I had mentioned it in a previous meeting, that we are keeping a much larger presence over in Pine Grove. I have my inspector over there quite a bit, just keeping an eye on everything, enforcing our town code, property maintenance issues. Speaking of Pine Grove, when I had reached out to the land development manager, as who I spoke to, I thought I was asking maybe something that was uncommon about coming in and speaking with you, and found out that that's not the case. They do it all the time. He was very eager to come in. Unfortunately, I kind of gave him short notice. They said they do this all over. And so he let me know that he had every intent on coming in and speaking, and they were going to try to do it as quick as possible. But again, I do appreciate the support. I feel confident that we're addressing all of the issues that come in, and our presence is strong in the community. And I think for the moment that we're doing a pretty good job. But I definitely wouldn't hesitate to reach out and ask for help if I felt that we were shorthanded or just couldn't keep up with it.
Thanks.
You all are doing a fabulous
Oh,
job.
thank you.
Not much gets past you at all, at all. So thank you about that.
Did he give you a date?
He did not. He did not. I think we had talked about a date here and they weren't available. So
I thought they picked the March.
No, they were aiming for March. It
Mhm.
didn't work out.
Okay. Thanks, Aaron.
great,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Acting Chief Norris. First report. There you go.
I've
Hammer
done this
'em,
before.
hammer 'em. Any questions for Acting Chief Norris? All right.
How's it going?
Business as usual.
All right.
So I will say, because we had our going away farewell to Chief Shinner, and I may have mentioned this at our last meeting, but I don't think I did. But and I know we spoke at that, and that's kind of why I wanted to make it. One of the things that I want to commend you guys on is maintaining that small town relationship, and for you guys to be a part of the unified track and field team and welcoming them back in from La Plata High School. That was something that I received a number of phone calls and emails from parents and from the teachers and the people there that said that was just it was an amazing experience to have the lights and the sirens come in. As I told you that it was something that I think a lot of municipalities or a lot of areas may take for granted, but it's that kind of little extra that we can do that I think it goes a long way to maintaining that relationship between us as a council or as a police department and then the residents in the community. So thank you for that.
I appreciate that. And I'll pass that along. I think they have fun doing it too. So
Yeah.
All right. We're going to make it to day 3.
we'll see.
Good job. Thank you very
Thank-
much. All right. Director Phipps. Any questions for Director Phipps? No, oh my goodness, quick go. Thank you so much. Good report.
I'm sorry.
Um,
I just
Okay, come on back.
apologize.
2 weeks. What you got?
This may be an operator error on my part because the way I signed up for different notifications, but I get 2 sets of notifications. And so when you go there, sometimes you get the site, sometimes, so I don't know whether I think my password's screwed up, but so why is there different?
I think you were right with the first part. You're signed up for 2 different kinds of subscriptions.
Okay,
So you'll get the notifications from the board portal, which have links to your agenda and the documents and some functions that are different from the public portal. And you're probably also getting notifications from the public
Okay.
portal. So you'll get 2 notifications
right.
for the same meeting. I tried to not to send 2 board portal notifications for the same meeting or 2 public portal notices for the same. So you'll
Okay.
either get an agenda from one and an agenda packet from the other, but not both.
Okay,
hopefully.
and like I said, I own up as operator error. So for the public though, they can sign up for a subscription and they get
Mhm.
automatic.
They can get subscription. They can subscribe to any of the meetings that they want to get,
Okay,
and separately, but with the same login, which I know makes a whole lot of sense. On the town webpage, the public can sign in for subscriptions to get subscriptions to the news flashes, to the newsletters, the emergency releases, any of the pages that they want to subscribe to on the town webpage.
Okay.
They can get notifications for.
so for an example, so if they get enough, they want to sign up to get town council packages, they get the agenda or the entire packet.
They'll get the agenda. They'll still have access to the packet.
Okay.
But
that's
for the
fine.
same reason that you don't want to
Okay.
see 2 notifications from the same meeting, it just gets confusing. So
Yeah, and that's the reason for my question, because I know there's been some trying to work out some of the things. Okay, and that's very helpful. And then I know that there's probably a staffing issue in time. Is that how soon after a meeting like tonight is it posted on the town YouTube channel?
if all things go well,
Right.
the next day the video will be up on
Okay.
YouTube. If things get delayed, like we have anything going on at all, it might wait until the end of the week.
Okay. Because that's, again, I find those very helpful. So
And it does, the video goes up on the town's YouTube, but also on the meeting platform, and they're usually up much faster than the video,
What,
the,
I'm sorry, what was that platform again?
the public portal
Okay,
and the board portal,
Okay.
the video will show up on there also.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry for the last minute question.
That's all right. Thank you very much. You did well. All right. Director Cox, come on down. All right. Good evening. Any questions for Public Works? Director Cox, go ahead.
Thanks again. How's it going? Busy, I know, I know. Just from, again, so who does the inspections when the town is constructing a particular project, like a pump station or mod one? Who does those and follow-up inspections? You
sorry.
mean they inspect it?
Yes.
So they're the contractor and the inspector, or is it a separate function? I guess I'm trying to, maybe I'm confusing you, but let's say the town is building a road.
Yep.
And you have a construction company, or maybe you do it in-house. Who files back and says this meets the specifications of the town design or the engineering drawings? Who does those follow-up inspections?
Right now, we have Austin Corbin doing most of that type of work.
And that's a contractor as
No,
needed?
that's a town employee,
Okay.
public works employee.
And then how about for like a sewage treatment expansion like Mod 1? Who does the follow-up inspections on that?
That would be a Kirk question.
So for the treatment plants, we have Donnie Gardner does all those. He's a
So it's
contractor.
internal again?
Yeah, it's all internal. Yeah, all inspections we do internal. So that's new water lines, new sewer lines. Austin Corbin does those. Pump stations, Austin does those along with myself and other staff.
So do you need more people to do that? Because that's a lot.
I don't believe we need more people now, no.
And then for a developer follow-up inspection, who does those? Plan check?
Plant check does those, but we also do, like, I mean, what do you mean by developer? Like a water line or a sewer line?
Yeah, let's say a developer is constructing like Pine Grove, and just an example. So they're building water and sewer and roads and stormwater management. Who inspects those
That's
after?
mostly Austin, but I also assist Austin in doing that as well.
And then you do those when they want to get off the bond?
Correct.
And we
Well,
accept it?
we do them all throughout the construction process.
Okay.
Yep.
Other than, and of course, the state comes in with respect to MDE stuff, right? And soil erosion control does their inspection. That's a county function, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much. That brings us to our budget discussion. We're going to start first with the Finance Committee. If you all could come on down. Do we need here? Yep. We have enough. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming back this week. Your report last time we met was fascinating and very thorough. And I know there were some questions, and one of the questions that I believe Councilman Trollinger asked Nicole was some of where she got her information from. That was one. And also just to dive in a little bit more about, I know there was a slide that you all had on the 457. So if you guys could speak to that, that would be wonderful. And I'm sure there's going to be questions if you're able to answer that. So take it away.
So my name is Mike and I'm going to be speaking for the committee tonight. Our chair, Nicole, is either on her way or in Africa as we speak. So good for her. The first question that you mentioned, Madam Mayor, was sources of information. So that's been given to the council, but I'm going to give some handouts. So if I can give.
Oh,
take those.
oh, you oh, you got them.
Yeah, I got them. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
A lot of reading material. Expect you to read it.
Okay, you give us a week.
Thanks, Michelle, for printing that information.
Wow.
If you allow, yeah, I'll talk about these slides and then come back to the printed material that we just gave you. It's my understanding that we were asked to talk about the slide that we have on 457 plan. And also, in order to talk about that, we need to talk about the pension plan slide also. These were SWOT slides. So I'll start with the pension plan slide. Under the strengths, I'm not going to read every one of these, as neither did Randy when he was given his presentation before, but I'm going to highlight a few. There is a change on the slide. If you happen to have a copy of that slide from the previous presentation, under strengths on the pension plan slide, it says cost of living adjustments to offset inflation. That should not be there. That is not supposed to be on that slide. It's the only correction to the slides that we have to offer. One of the strengths for pension plans is strong governance with professional investment management. I'd like to highlight that because if I understand what the council is asking us to do is to manage our own pension plan, which the committee feels is fiscally risky. Let me put it that way. Under the weaknesses, the one that I would highlight is complex actuarial requirements. There's not only actuarial requirements, but there's legal, there's accounting, there's a trust needs to be set up, a finance committee would need to be set up. Probably new additional staff or firms to be hired, meaning expense for the town. One of the opportunities is staff development programs to improve governance. And the feeling from the committee is that what the town needs to be doing is focusing on the business of the town rather than focusing on the business of a pension plan, which could be handled better by an organization actually set up to do that. If for other reference, if you refer to page 8 of the Bolton report, it's my understanding that that's the page supplemental 3 that is what your folks are asking us to support. I'm now switching to the SWOT page on 457 plan. And one of the weaknesses here, and no program was perfect. There's always going to be strengths and weaknesses on every option, but there's a weakness of risk of insufficient savings due to employee reliance. That's a well-known thing, particularly young employees. They don't think about their retirement until much later. And as an older person, I've heard too many people approaching my age said, "Man, I wish I started this earlier." That can be addressed with financial education, financial literacy education. And I could say a little bit more about that later. Actually, this might be the time to do that. Let me see. One of the threats is market downturns could devastate retiree savings. I actually see a positive in 457 plans by the fact that there is continual contributions being made by the employee and the employer. So dollar cost averaging is in place, which helps offset the threat of significant market downturns. I would summarize all this by saying two things. Number one is the committee is in full support of providing some additional retirement program to the police and the qualified people in public works. They do deserve that. On the other hand, to put in the program of managing our own pension, we think that that is extremely financially risky to the town. and could be better handled by organizations that are already set up to do that. And so if we would continue to propose the 457 plan. There are many companies out there that do that for municipalities, states, schools, so forth. Just to name a few, Corebridge does it for the Charles County Public Schools. T. Rowe Price is a big company, Vanguard, all those big names, they have such programs already in place. And so the money that we would spend to manage our own pension plan, we could spend a small amount of that toward financial literacy training for our employees to help them make sure that they can help beef up their own contributions to the 457 plan. Having said that, I think that summarizes what I would say also on the notes that I handed out to you. So we'll go to questions.
Thank you very much. And thank you, as I said, for three of you coming back. I know what's really important to recognize is that you not only have the qualifications to speak about finances, but you are also residents. So you have a vested interest in making sure that the taxpayers' money is spent wisely. So I appreciate that. I do have a question before I open it up, and I don't know, I'm going to catch you guys off guard on this. There's been a lot of talk about the Maryland state budget. And one thing that they were looking at in order to try to equalize the budget up there is to put the pension for the teachers down on the county level. And the county, from what I have read, is having a very difficult time because that means in-house. And some of the challenges that they have stated was not being able to have enough resources to do that, not having the know-how how to do that. Do you know of anything about that and the difficulties that they are going to face with that?
And you want to talk about it first? I have an answer, but
Go ahead.
I had not heard that, and it frightens me.
Yeah.
Again, I think it puts the county in the same position that we might be putting ourselves into, that we're not equipped to manage such a program. The Maryland State Retirement Program, I did, in our research here, I did check the health of that program. It's extremely healthy. And to steal away from that, that might be a bad word, but to steal away from that, to have someone else manage a companion or a subsidiary program, I think is risky to the county for sure.
Okay.
I think we should, the Maryland State Program is healthy, does a good job. If I were talking to the governor, I would say, let them continue to do the good job.
Thank you. All right, I'll open it up for council. Go ahead.
Scan, thank you very much, Matt Trollinger, Ward 2. I want to address Madam Mayor's question of you that appears to be beyond the scope of your assignment. Essentially, the Kerwin plan and the Maryland, the blueprint for Maryland's future as part of the Department of Education has no bearing on what you guys were asked to evaluate, right?
As I said, it was the first I'd heard it.
Sure. That's a multi-level problem for the Department of Education, for the counties, for the state. I don't think adequately planned for that or funded that or anything else, but has no bearing on what the town is doing or discussing whatsoever. But I wanted to go back to the question of scope for a moment because I appreciate you all being here. You stated that this had been given to council. I got it right now when you handed it to us. So I'm not sure if it was presented to.
It was my understanding that it was provided at a previous meeting. So,
It was just referenced. We
oh, it's just referenced.
yes,
Okay, my bad.
we did not get this. That was just referenced the amount of work Nicole had said. We did
Okay.
not receive that. And that's why she presented it based on Councilman Trollinger's request last week.
Okay.
That's why we have it.
That's why I guess that's why we're getting this is to see the sources. So I appreciate you bringing it. I just want to be clear that we didn't have a mix up as far as us reviewing this ahead of time because I want to have a discussion with you about the scope and your findings for sure. So as far as scope, I think there's a misunderstanding as to what council has done in light of our probably 2 to 3 year investigation of weighing pros and cons of retirement plans, not just for the police department, but for public works and just our staff in general. I want to be clear, nobody expects from this council that our town staff is equipped to manage a pension plan by themselves with current staff or anything else. In all
Good
of
to
these
hear.
discussions, as you've, I think, aptly noted, there are companies that do this and they are paid specifically to do this. We cannot expect our town staff to take on essentially a more than full-time job managing all of our employees' retirement benefits, both now and in the future. That's not possible for them to do, and that's not part of what our discussion was. And so I don't want the finance committee to think that we overestimate the time that our staff has in managing plans. Because I think you're absolutely right. You get the professionals to do those types of activities. So I'm not sure what was relayed to you. We didn't get a copy of anything in writing that outlined what the finance committee was looking at as far as 457 or otherwise. But as far as the 457 plan, I mean, that's, hate to put it this way, but we've already evaluated that. That's in the past. And we were looking at incorporating what is the best way to incorporate the pension plan that was selected by council months ago. And I'm kind of at a loss here because you guys are working very hard and doing a great job. But as Councilman Jenkins noted, or I guess asked about in our last meeting, you weren't even given the Bolton plan that was not asked for by the police department, but by, my understanding is Brent Manuel, former town manager, to evaluate the pension plan. And when we're looking at pension plans generally versus a specific set of facts and criteria that we are trying to implement, it puts you guys at a disadvantage because you're not getting all of the information. And I don't want to say that to disparage the work that you've done. I just think it affects the information that we receive back. If we are not, we, as in the town, is not supplying you with the full context, because otherwise we're getting not all of the information back. Does that make sense? And it's not, I'm not upset with I want to evaluate everything that you've been given, because I think we can all recognize in 2025, nobody has pensions the way they did in the 80s and 90s, like our parents and our grandparents did, right? I mean, my grandfather worked for the World Bank and he worked very hard and he traveled overseas and he was able to retire with an engineer background at a certain time. That doesn't exist anymore. And part of that's because people don't stay at their jobs as long anymore. We want to make sure that our town employees do stay here and are invested and do have a benefit to retire at an appropriate time. So I guess, I mean, I'd like to know, I guess I'd like to ask Ms. Minor for a copy of what was sent to the finance committee as to what the request was, because I don't think it's time efficient to, and no offense, to bring in folks that have been working really hard, and we don't get this stuff in advance. And I think it was thought that we did, where we're relitigating things that aren't on the agenda, and we're wasting some volunteers' time on they could be using it on other things. And if we're looking at our current budget, let's attack the current budget. You guys made great recommendations last time that are going to save our town staff time and our town money. But to chase after things that have already either been litigated or you're not given the full information is not respectful to you as individuals in our community. And we're not using your talents and skills wisely. And so I guess, Ms. Minor, if we could get a copy of what they were even asked to do to understand the results, I think that would be helpful for us.
Councilman Trollinger, I will get with
Great.
Director Kennedy and Director Larson. I don't know what was submitted to the Finance Committee.
And I understand that, I've been a bit abrasive in the past asking for documents as to what was sent out, because to me, it's inconceivable that we can't find people to call us back to create a pension plan. And it was met with disdain, or it was a thought that I thought somebody lacked integrity or something like that. But seeing what's been sent out on behalf of the town as a council member, I think is appropriate and reasonable. And if we're asking these highly skilled folks to do a lot of work, we should all be on the same page to help each other, because they're just doing it for the town's benefit.
Mr. Norris, it looks like you are wanting to say something.
Well, I really don't want to say anything, but I feel compelled to, because I think the interpretation, I think generally we understood that the town staff was not actually the ones to run the program, but certainly would take quite a bit of effort on their part to work with the professionals, I'll call them, that would be running it. That you'd need a committee, you'd need auditors, you'd need a whole cadre of professionals, but it would also take quite a bit from our staff to, so to speak, keep that crew doing what they're supposed to be doing, and make sure that they were doing it well on behalf of the town. That was kind of my interpretation.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead.
Hey, it's no secret that this goal, excuse me, sorry, Calvin, I'll make a statement from a fiscal standpoint. I think it does make sense to incorporate the 457. We've, as Councilman Trollinger said, we've already litigated that. It was voted 3-2 to do this enhanced pension. So I applaud, and I genuinely, I wish I had received this, or wish could, because I like Councilman Trollinger, I'd like to get information so that I can digest it and read it and understand it, so that I come prepared. My question is more towards, I guess, ourselves, is where is this on the agenda? Because I don't see anything on the agenda that says we're rehashing the 457 enhanced pension. It's not on my agenda.
Finance Committee. It is 4.1, matters of discussion.
4.1 matters of, I've got general funds, Larson / Finance Committee, general. Okay. I assumed that we were discussing from Director Larson's standpoint. But that's my mistake. But again, I would like to at least look and review what you have to see what it is. Review your sources and review, because I think it's there that it shows that the 457 is the overall makes best sense for both the town from a fiscal standpoint, long term, knowing that We've got to think things 10, 15, 20 years ahead. And that is, and no, I don't think anybody can discount that. My only concern is, and I am very cognizant of, because when I came into the council 18 months ago, all I heard was that they have been debating this and kicking this around for 7+ years. And what I think is happening now is that we're just kicking it for another year and another year and another year. And that's where I guess my level of frustration is that, you know, as we have bantered back and forth, is that while I may agree that the 457 is the best choice, and from my opinion and my estimation, from a fiscal standpoint, that's not what council voted for. And I think that's where the hiccup is.
Are you saying that it's a done deal and we're talking about something that,
Well, in a manner of speaking, Mr. Nars, yes, because I don't want to say it's a done deal. I just think that you know, there was a council vote and it was 3-2 to go through an enhanced pension. And I was a staunch opponent of doing an enhanced pension because by high authority, I was told that it is very, very difficult to do this and to implement this, and that the cost burden placed on the town to implement this will be greater than the value presented than if you had just done a 457. I'm not here to rehash that. We hashed that out last year. So I agree, but at this point, we're reviewing a budget for 2026. And I think we're trying to determine, well, which budget do we want to utilize? But don't forget, there's a budget over here. If we just make this change, because we still have to, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm just kind of flying off the cuff here, the legislation that we passed 18 months ago or 12 months ago stipulated there was a tax increase that stipulated to go towards this enhanced pension. So wouldn't it require us as a council to vote to rescind that legislation in order to move it over to a 457? I mean, I don't know. I don't know the legality of that process. Am I
It was
speaking out
to
of
go
turn?
for an enhanced pension, but it didn't say a Bolton enhanced pension.
Okay.
This is because, and I don't know if everyone realizes this that is listening in. Everybody that works for the town has a pension already.
Correct.
It's the Maryland pension. We all know that. This is in addition, this is a little bit more because we truly realize the risk involved for the police department and public works. The problem that, and not to rehash it, but to just restate it, is that public works and the police department are intertwined to try to create an enhanced pension that will work. That is what the council, majority of council had voted on 18 months ago. That's what Director Kennedy is trying to find someone who will do that. And as you see, last week or the last time they met was a disaster. That one, they were not prepared, Amaret. USI gave a nice presentation, but they said the difficulty because merging those together doesn't exist. So it has to be created. So that is because of the broad, just to get back to you, Councilman Winkler, the enhanced pension increase, it didn't say it had to be for program A, B, or C. Okay, Councilman Jenkins.
Thank you. I guess two questions. So again, you know, we appreciate the effort and the work. And I know you started meeting back in January. So thanks for that hard work. I'm just curious though, was there any other items that you looked at in the operating budget that needs our attention? I mean, are there line items or expenditures or revenue other than just saying the 457 is the preferred budget? Are there any more specific detailed review that you did of the budget that we should know about?
the recommendations we put forth previously.
So there's no other, so your review of the budget, the draft, two draft operating budget, there's no line items or no revenues or expenses that caught your attention other than the $90,000 land use survey and the 457, no other red
and,
flags?
And recommending it a project manager.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get, so there's no other budget flag that you saw other than the 457 issue.
I don't think there was any red flags that we came up with.
We were
We-
given the budgets and we did review them line by line.
Okay, well, that's what, okay.
The point is that on the completion of that line by line review, these recommendations, we felt mattered enough to bring to your attention.
You wanted to say something.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is
Okay.
that we went through each line item that
Okay.
Ms. Larson
I-
provided, and we just we did not want to overwhelm the council.
That's
We
okay.
wanted to
That's
just
why we're
bring-
here.
We just
That's
wanted
okay.
to bring certain concepts.
You can overwhelm
forward.
us. At least for me, you can. That's fine.
Well,
And I
we only
appreciate that.
we've only been
I know.
together for since.
I get it.
A lot to do in such a.
Yes.
I get it, and it's appreciated. And then I'm just,
But I would like to say this.
Go ahead.
Is that the references that Nicole researched, yes, really focused on funding ratios for pensions in a state and municipal, the crises that was happening back in 2024 all the way through 2001. When investments, the funding ratio is all the liabilities compared to all of your assets.
mhm.
That's basically what the funding ratio represents. And we decided as a group, we didn't realize about the Bolton report, and we decided as a group that the 457 was less overhead for the pension program and less risky. And it was, compared to both the 457 budget of 2026 and the pension budget, physically, I mean, we would be in a deficit for whatever Ms. Larson represented. So that's why we went with the dollar and cents approach, and we recommended 457. But the resources that Nicole has provided definitely speaks towards the management of pensions and funding ratios.
So this is
Right.
this is from who?
This is, well, the
These two documents.
information, the information is from
I know,
the.
but who found it? I'm trying to get who.
Nicole
Williams.
Nicole,
Okay.
right, yeah.
I just wasn't clear. I thought somebody else did. And then, so and perhaps this is not part of your charge, and so forgive me when I ask this question. So in this research, does it talk about the repercussions of the pros and cons of one pension plan versus the other, and the potential loss of personnel leaving their jobs for something else?
I have not seen anything regarding that. What it mentions is the status of pension plans throughout the United States
Okay.
for each state.
Mhm.
And they specifically referred to the valuation risks
Mhm.
and the funding ratios for each pension plan.
So
And
so
those are important indicators of the well-being of each pension plan.
and I obviously that's appreciated, and I guess that's part of your charge. I guess what I'm trying to get at is, and that's probably for another discussion or maybe later on, but what could be, or what, there's an issue of, and I think somebody referred to it earlier, that our job should be running the town, which is true. But you don't run the town if you don't have a staff, or you have a dissatisfied staff, or you have staff that are halfway out the door because for some reason they don't feel like they're wanted, or they're not provided the resources to be satisfied employees. And I don't know how you quantify that, but after the fact, when you see the numbers leave, that's a huge impact on the town now and in the future. And so I'm just concerned that this is good stuff, but I haven't read it because we just got it 20 minutes ago. And so understanding your charge, and I understand it, but there's also a human side of this too. It's not always, with all due respect, it's not always numbers. It's about the quality of the community, quality of the workforce, of the professionalism of the workforce. And the issue, frankly, for me is how can we retain competent people and how do we attract competent people? And how do you do that? In my view, you create the environment to do that, which includes benefits. Thank you.
If I may say so, I agree with that. It's important to make sure you have a very good benefit package together. And I understand we pay 100% of health insurance, which is, in my career, I never experienced that before. Should have started with the town a lot longer. But also keep in mind, as Randy just pointed out, we've only been at this for a bit, and we come into it, this is where we are, not so much where we've been. And we need to figure out, okay, this is where we are. How do we go from there? And we are interested, as I had said in the opening remarks, in providing some enhanced benefit to the police and public works.
And Mr. Gann, to your committee, to the work that Cole's done, and Mr. Norris and Randy, that you've all done, I think it's important as far as if the town's trying to be more open and transparent with the residents, you guys have a very important role, right? Because you are, as the mayor stated, invested in the town as residents. You have skills and expertise that is helpful for us, and you have a different perspective. I just want to make sure that I can be on the same, I'm not going to be on the same level educationally. I don't want to misstate that, but on the same level as what you were given, because what you've given us requires us to read this. We are called as a responsibility to our residents to pass a budget, right? And so when you give us this depth of information, we can't ignore it. I still have to review it, despite what council has done as a 3-2 vote, as Councilman Winkler stated. We're still responsible for the budget that we pass. And so I can't ignore the information you've given us. I appreciate you giving it to us, and I will review it. So thank you.
Any further questions for the Finance Committee? Thank you very much, and thank you for indulging us with our questions and all of that. It's a great dialogue, and I look forward to our next encounter.
Thank you for your time.
All right, Treasurer Larson, come on down.
Okay, sorry.
So if I could start, before we start with discussing the general funds, I've heard at least two of our council members say they would like to digest the information, and I am one as well, that we received here. Our next step is 4.1, a budget discussion to move forward with that. Is it the will of the council to have that discussion now? Or do we want, and the enterprise fund is directly related to the general fund. So the general fund and the enterprise, whatever we do with the general fund impacts the enterprise fund, if I am correct in saying that.
Yes, well, here's the thing. So I've prepared, there's now 3 budgets, one with the Finance Committee's recommendation, and one was per the direction of the town manager, one with the pension and the 457. But one thing I do want to make clear, these budgets are plans. It's not a iron that this is what we have to do, because if that was the case, then we would never do budget adjustments or we can't change. So yes, we had a plan to do a pension, and that plan can still be on, and that's the one you should. If that plan changes, then that changes. But these are your decisions. I prepare these budgets based on the requests from the departments and the requests from the town manager.
And to be clear, town manager, not a mayor as acting town
Mhm.
manager.
Yeah.
So when we referred to town manager throughout council, I don't want anybody to think we've actually hired a town
No.
manager yet. We're
That's
still working
correct.
on that. Or
Yeah.
that's on
The acting
assistant
town.
town manager,
Mhm.
Michelle Minor, but got it.
Yeah.
All right, so back to, would we like to have this discussion to see if we have a consensus to move forward with a general fund budget? Or do you all want to digest the information that was given here and be prepared to pass something, move something forward on April 8th? Councilman Winkler?
Review the information. Once again, I am, this is something that I've been adamant about since I joined the council, is that the getting information in a timely manner. So I definitely want to look at this. But I'm cognizant of the fact that once again is another delay in April 8th. And then if April 8th, something else comes up, then there's another delay and there's another delay. And at some point we need to make a decision. I am inclined to agree that our best budgetary plan, as Director Larson, is with the 457. That's no secret. That I just think it balances the best of what's an extra benefit for employees, for all employees, not just a number of them, but everyone, and the financial burdens that we're going to be placing on the citizens and the residents of the town of La Plata in the next 10 or 15 years. But I'm cognizant that I am one voice up here of 5 members of this council. And if it's the will of the council to postpone to the April 8th, yes, I can live with it. If the council says we need to make a decision here tonight, then I can be ready to move forward with a budget plan.
All right. Councilman Trollinger.
I guess I have a clarification question. I guess a couple. Do we anticipate any other additions or input prior to or up until April 8th as to the budget? Any of the budgets presented?
As far as I know, no, but this is the information I'm presenting to you is based on from what the departments have asked and what the town manager has asked, and I've created these 3 budgets based on those requests.
Okay. And as far as the notice timeline to the residents, as far as the budget goes, what if anything does April 8th do
Well,
to our overall schedule? I know you gave us the schedule, but just in.
There's a revised schedule that anticipates for that. So if you guys don't make a decision, it's not a concern because of, as long as we have a posting of the budget 15 days before, or 15 days, at least 15 days available for the citizens to review it. So 15 plus days. So if you guys don't make a decision, then we could postpone it to the 8th. But the key is that it also has to be approved 15 days before it's effective. So the latest date that it could be approved, I believe, is June 10th.
Okay, and with April 8th, if council agreed to some budget, then it would be 15.
I would still have time because the posting for this new calendar would say the posting would be on the 18th, and the hearing on May 13th. So you guys still have time to review these, and we would still be within the time limit that we're supposed to be in.
Where would it where would it be as far as new council, old council?
Well,
that timeframe?
the new council would end up having to approve the budget. So anybody running for council should be staying on top of what's going on right now.
So we're in a situation now where we would be on April 8th approving a budget that we would then subject council to then review and reapprove.
Well, you're not approving a budget. The approval of the budget comes with the adoption of the budget. So that would be, the adoption of the budget would be from the next council if you guys push it back. Well, right now, it would have to be pushed back because there was no consensus last meeting.
Yeah, I'm concerned with the fairness of that to new council. To
With that said, this budget will be the one that they're overseeing too.
understood it. We're still interviewing town managers, and they're going to be dealing with the town manager.
Yep.
And I think I recall when we came on board, we inherited a budget that was given to us. Not that that was fair, but that was the way that it was done.
Another thing, even as council, you guys could go in and amend the budget anyways.
Mhm.
So even if you approve a budget today or say this is what we want and you pass it April 22nd, adopt it, they can go and make a budget adjustments if they don't agree with what you did.
Yeah, I think don't want to rush into anything. And I don't like getting, information late, as we dealt with last week. That's why there wasn't a consensus, but I'm for the April 8th date. Just by nature of what we've been given, it's may not be the best thing, but I think it's the right thing.
Councilman Jenkins.
Thank you. Just a clarification point. What is I know there's a link between the operating budgets and the enterprise fund budgets. So what is the level of difference between the enterprise funds with or under each option?
So
I mean, I tried to look at the numbers, but I couldn't
yeah,
necessarily.
there is a small difference.
Okay.
And mainly it's because in the enterprise fund budget, because of the public works under the pension is a much lesser benefit.
Okay.
Where the 457, they get an equal benefit with the police. So it's a little higher on the enterprise funds,
Mhm.
but not a significant amount. If you went through it, there's a
Yeah, I
small
tried.
variance.
Okay, that answers that clarification. And then I would agree with Councilman Trollinger that I'm very uncomfortable tonight because of this material. But I also am frankly conflicted by pushing it off. But I think because we're here and we're in office today, that I think for me, I'd rather wait to the 8th.
All right, so it sounds like, and I will wait till the 8th. So it sounds like that is what we're going to do with that. So we're not going to delve into, because the only thing that we were talking, unless we want to have the conversation and not make the decision here, if there's anything that.
The only thing I would say is there was the third budget that was given, which was based on the finance committee's implementing those recommendations. Are there any questions on that third budget that needs to be answered? You didn't get a copy yet?
With the impact of the finance committee recommendations.
Yeah, there was a third budget that was put together on you guys should have received it. It was put together on the 19th.
Was it with the packet of the enterprise With the,
No, it was a separate,
47.
that was a separate budget.
That was the 457 and the
Pension.
creation of
Yeah, we
the
didn't look at the-
project manager and the elimination of the 90,000.
So it's already in there.
Yeah, that's the one that we talked about that,
Yeah, no, okay.
yeah, they received that one.
Okay.
Okay, I'm still a little bit mystified here. So we have two operating proposed budget with 457 pension, right?
Yes.
We have two enterprise fund budgets with 57 with pension.
Yes.
There's not a third budget.
Well, there is a third budget with the finance committee's recommendations implemented in.
That's the one that they received. That's the one council received.
Okay. So they,
So
you
there's
guys
not-
received that
Yeah.
one.
You received that one and that's the comments that were made on that
Oh,
one.
I
saying-
wasn't aware that that incorporated those comments. Okay, that's a little
Well-
surprised about that.
Was prefaced with, this is the recommendation from the finance committee. And that's the last budget that was received.
Yeah, there you would have received the enterprise budget separately. And then
You're right.
I was requested to do one with the finance committee's recommendations, which is what I did. And you
And
guys
that's
could
the
have
one that
received
was
that one.
emailed to council.
But that's the one that says 457 on it.
Well, there's two of them with that says 457 on it. One
That's
with the
the-
finance committee's recommendations and one was, so you had two original ones
Right.
and then another one created with the finance committee's recommendations.
And that's the budget that you received.
Okay, I
Last
have,
week.
I received two operating budgets and two enterprise budgets.
You received one last week. That was a 457. At least that's what was mailed out, emailed out. You should have received one budget. And there was questions on why does it have a 457 and not the two of them combined. And I believe Ms. Minor wrote that this is for conversation. There was a long email that accompanied this based on Councilman Winkler's question. And that's
Yeah,
what,
that's why I was just making sure
Yeah.
that you didn't have.
a third one. It was that you did receive the third one. You received after the discussion that we had last week. You received that one as a basis for discussion based on the finance committee's recommendations. So that's the one that went out, correct?
Yes, it went out Friday morning at 11:59.
All right, okay. So with that said, your question is, does anybody have questions on that one?
All right, so general fund is being put to the A. Now the enterprise funds, you should have received two budgets. And that will, of course, depending on which one we move forward on, relies on which one you choose for the general fund. However, there are a few things that both of these budgets have that I want to point out. And one of them is the sanitation fund. That fund, we are actually, no matter whichever budget you choose, we're still in a deficit of roughly between 90,000 and 100,000. And part of that is an increase in personnel costs. Two personnel has been allocated to that fund. Also an increase in landfill fees. And instead of increasing the rate 9%, which is what we would have to do to cover that, finance and public works are looking at options of creating a rate for additional cans so that residents are charged based on usage, same concept for water and sewer to help mitigate that. So we're in the process of trying to find how we're going to collect the data and what impact it would have. In there's also a 3% increase, which would increase the rate from $100 per quarter to $103 per quarter. The other three funds actually aren't in the same position. There is actually a surplus in sewer and a surplus in stormwater and a very small surplus in water. All these would also have a 3% rate increase. And the reasonings for that is because we do have capital that needs to be covered, but also there's been discussion with the finance committee of, because we don't want this spike in raising rates, is to create a fund when we do have where we have a surplus and put that in that reserve to mitigate the rate increase. So in this budget, all three funds, the proposed rate increase is 3%. In the sewer fund, the budget would have a surplus of roughly 220,000, and that either can be supporting capital improvements or could be put in a reserve to offset rate increases in future budgets. And the water fund, depending on which one, it's like a 4,000 surplus. And then in the stormwater, you're looking at around 130,000 surplus. Again, same concept, either put it towards capital improvement or create a reserve. The other thing I wanted to point out is the effects, the 3% rate effects. So on trash, like I said, it's going to go from 100 to 103 per quarter. On stormwater, it's currently at $27 per quarter. It would go to $27.80. For water, it's at $4.85 per 1,000 gallons, and that would go to $5. And then sewer is currently at $14.50, and it would go to $14.95.
And that is a recommendation not only of the finance committee, but that is the cost of doing business.
Yes.
Okay.
One things that I did not want to do, we had large rate increases last year. I
Yeah.
mean, trash went up significantly, and really that's the one that we would have to, but if we evaluate and try to get the data to charge residents based on usage, hopefully we can get that to cover the costs that that's running.
And do we need to increase? I mean, is this a must to increase the fees?
I would recommend it because you don't want to end up in a situation next year that now we've got to go 6% because we didn't do the 3%. That's why we have that capital, or we can use it as a reserve.
The opposite.
Mhm.
Good. All right. So thank you for that. I know that we will reach a consensus, or our goal is to reach a consensus next meeting to move the enterprise funds forward. But at this time, do you have questions?
Yeah, I thank you. I just want to, so what effect does the Baker-Tilly study have on these?
So the Baker-Tilly study, I believe their recommendation for water and sewer were 4%. I don't recall.
Yeah, I think it was 3 or 4, yeah.
And that's consistent over 5 years. So if we take that in consideration and do those small increases to
Okay.
help prevent, and if there's one time that we do have a larger increase and we've done this small increase that gave us a surplus for a reserve, then that would offset from us having to raise those rates higher.
And then, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought the study, there's a recommended ratio of surplus or reserve you ought to have. And so we're not quite there, but this would help us do that according to that study.
Well, what it was trying to do is make sure that we have enough in our reserves, our fund balance, to cover capital needs
Okay.
as we improve our capital.
So this would help that, this steady.
Yeah.
No one wants this, but at least and then I didn't see, and maybe it's coming later because I know this is not. So have they or will they calculate the EDU number? And will that affect the budget? Maybe not now, but in future years?
I'm sure if we had that, it would affect how we calculate the rates, but based
okay.
on their recommendation, they're giving us a 5-year.
Right, I saw that, yeah.
And of course, this is a draft.
Right.
So there's still more work
Okay.
based on what comes up with the water allocation, based on how we reevaluate how we're assessing our assets and our capital improvement plan. Based on that, it could change.
So again, beating a dead horse here, but So when do we have any sense of when we might get information, either to this council or the incoming council, about the water use, the EDU number? I mean, because that's a big piece here, I think. And so I just trying to get a time frame of when we could, or future council can expect that number. And I see that, well, never mind.
You see the look on my face.
I'm just perplexed, and I appreciate your email earlier today. But I mean, it's been close to what, it's not quite a year, but so I guess I'm just concerned, like, when are we going to get the product that we paid for?
with the Baker Tilly
Yeah.
study. Well,
I'm-
well, the draft came out in November
Right.
of 2024,
Mhm.
and until we get the water agreement, it will be continuous a draft.
Well, yeah, okay, I can kind of see that, but I guess I'm just trying to understand. Isn't the water isn't the water number based upon what we use and not what we may use from the county? I mean, I know that'll, if that ever happens, but I mean, we now have a number that we use, what, 280 EDUs per dwelling unit? That's
250.
whatever it is. So isn't that based on our current water usage? So can't they calculate what it is now and if it's lower or higher? Or am I making it too simple?
I don't have an answer for you.
Because again, I'm just confused, and frankly, I don't understand why we can't get a number from them. But okay, I'll leave that one alone. And then real quick, back to the operating. I know we haven't gotten there yet. So the current so one budget with the 457 has finance committee recommendations. So the $90,000 land use study is not in there, right? I will again just reiterate that we could have done this 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And we didn't. So I'm a little frustrated with that being yanked out again, because the argument, well, there's not a plan director. Okay, I get it. Well, we had one 2 years ago when we didn't do it. And I think and I know you're probably sick of me talking about it, but that's a big piece of information that we need for the future. And I wish we had it. Thank you.
All right, any other comments on this?
No, I've harassed Director Larson enough today with questions and banter back and forth, so I'll leave her till I have a chance to review and we'll discuss next week.
And on that note, I want to thank, I know I didn't see if Councilman Trollinger sent anything in, but I know Councilman Jenkins and Councilman Winkler sent in a lot of questions, which is really appreciated. That is, it helps the treasurer to be prepared. It helps us to be prepared, and we know where your mind is on that, because numbers are just numbers, but the questions you're asking on the benefit of our constituents. So thank you for that. There were a lot of great questions on that, and I appreciate you all sending those in.
I would add to your responses, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
And a quick turnaround. I know how busy you all are, and you did a quick turnaround on that. All right, moving on then, we go to 4.3, the amendment of the calendar of events that you alluded to. And I hope that council has had an opportunity to review that. And Ms. Larson, if you have any questions for Ms. Larson on this?
What is the actual difference? I mean, I guess I was confused reading it. What is the actual
It
amendment?
pushes the dates back.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
that's what it does. It pushes all those dates
Okay.
back.
So I'm looking for a consensus to move this to legislation. Councilman Winkler,
Yes.
Councilman Trollinger,
Yes.
Councilman Jenkins.
Yes, and could I ask, assuming that it passes, can this be posted on the town website?
Yeah, once you guys come to an
Right, okay.
agreement, yes, because that's what we need for public comment.
Correct.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I am a yes as well. Thank you very much. And thank you, council, for a great conversation with not only the finance committee, but with our treasurer. Legislation.
Madam Mayor, Town Council, Legislation 5.1, Resolution 25.05, amendment of calendar of events for the preparation and adoption of the Town of La Plata financial plan budget for fiscal year 2026 for introduction and consideration of adoption. A resolution concerning amendment of calendar of events for the preparation and adoption of the Town of La Plata financial plan budget for fiscal year 2026 and all matters generally relating thereto.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to adopt Resolution 25-05 as presented?
Madam Mayor, I would make a motion to adopt Resolution 2505, amendment of calendar events for the preparation and adoption of the Town of La Plata financial plan budget for FY 2026 as presented.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to reports from the dais. So, Councilman Winkler.
Historic Preservation Committee, we met last Friday to review the not consolidating, what's the word I'm looking for? The standardization of plaques going on many of the buildings and businesses and residents in the town that have either a somewhat of a historic or significant impact or representation of the town. The other thing is we're moving along with evaluating, and I know I talked to Councilman Jenkins earlier about this, moving on with some improvements being made to the historic firehouse to make it a little more user-friendly, a little more accessible to town residents, and see if we can't create a better space for all to enjoy. So we should have some updates as we move that along.
Thank you very much. Councilman Trollinger.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Keep La Plata Beautiful met yesterday. I was unable to attend because it was 3:00. I had a work obligation. So I'll try to update you in the next meeting.
Thank you very much. Councilman Jenkins.
Thank you. I participated this morning in I guess Keep America committee that's looking at painted crosswalks on town streets. And they had several designs that they were looking at the intersection of St. Mary's and Centennial and St. Mary's and Queen Anne Street. I know they've been working on it for a while. You paint crosswalks, and so we reached consensus on at least one of them, and another one we're going to go back and review that one. But so I was thankful that the volunteers it's been a while, but they're still working diligently on that, and they hope to make it some kind of a community event where folks can come and help put on the stencil and paint it. And they've been coordinating with Public Works, so there's an issue, so there's been coordination. So I wanted to express my appreciation for their hard work, and hopefully we can get something. And that's all toward making La Plata more user-friendly, more walkable, and frankly, hopefully more safe. Thank you.
That's exciting. That should happen soon now that the weather, cross your fingers, have now we're into spring and we have nicer weather, and takes a lot of coordination. And mine is going to be short and sweet. Today is Maryland Day. So I have my Maryland scarf here, 391 years proud. So thank you for all that are celebrating Maryland Day. So happy Maryland Day. And with that, I move to adjourn at 7:33 p.m. See you April 8th. Thank you so much.